Go.
And that first sip of coffee going live. Well, Minnow Gish up, everybody. It's so nice to see you. I'm going to turn my phone on for 5 minutes because, as always, for my class, I do have you guys turn on your cameras for at least 5 minutes. That way I know you're there. That's kind of count as participation.
Well, I'm here.
I
need it, man.
So my 5 minutes is on. I'm going to get in our PowerPoint, and then I have a story to share with you guys. Go to share screen. Oh, Mr. I, am I able to share? Can you make me a host, please? So it is Wednesday. It kind of took me back. I was trying to figure out, is today Wednesday or is today Tuesday? But it's so different when we're teaching and learning from home. You kind of, some days you know what the day of the week is, and other days you're just like, I don't remember. All right. I think I have that.
Tiny tots, and that's just kids. It might be like 0 to 3 years of age or 4 maybe.
Say tater tots?
Please mute yourself. Miigwech. All right. So it is our last Wednesday for January 2021. It's our last week for Manadu. And if you guys remember, Manadu Gizis is January. So we have 3 more days of school to talk about Manadu Gizis, and then we'll have 2 more days on the weekend, and then come Monday, it's going to be Makwa Gizis. But for right now, we're going to talk about Manadu Gizis. It's that spirit moon. Hard to believe it's the end of January already, and tomorrow will be our full moon, so we'll have to talk about
That was quick.
it. Was a quick January, yes. We came back on the 4th, and we made it through 1, 2, 3, 3.5 weeks of school already.
My last January was so long.
Was it? Sometimes they can be a little bit long, and it's definitely different. But yeah, man.
Guys,
All right, and our new year that we're in, Minno Abipta Baboon. Minno Abipta Baboon. It's that midwinter for us, but it's also a new year. It's no longer 2020. It is now 2021. And then we have Nijo Shagun Shanistana Shabajik. Nijo Shagun Shanistana Shabajik. That means 2021. And then today it is it's Nishwashwe. It's Nishana Nishwashwe, the 27th today. So you could say Manadu Gizis, Nishana Shanishwashwe, Nijo Shagut Shanishana Shabajik, January 27th, 2021. Before we go to our next slide, let's say that word together though, the year. Nishana Shagunt Shanishana Shabajik. Let's say it.
they're dancing. So,
Nishana, I don't know how to say it.
Sagunts.
Sagus.
Yep.
Shani.
Isaac, I'm going to mute you for a second, right, buddy? Just while the video's playing.
Okay, we'll go to the next one and get into Gishagon, days of the week. Days of the week. We have 5 to go over. We have present, past and future. Present means today, past means yesterday, future is tomorrow. But then we also have the day before yesterday, the day before after tomorrow. So for Wasnago, it means day before yesterday. Jinago is yesterday. Nongon is today. Wabong is tomorrow, and Waswabong is the day after tomorrow. So going with Nongon Gijigat, today would be Niswe Gijigat. It'd be Wednesday. Niswe Gijigat. Shinango Gijigat yesterday would have been Nij Gijigat Tuesday. Then Wasnako Gijigat would have been Nintam Gijigat Monday. Then going back to Wabong Gijigat, tomorrow's day would be Nilan Gijigat. And Waswabong Gijigat would be Nanan Friday. And remember, these are just the numerical forms of the Gijigon, days of the week. And right now we have up there Nantam Gijigat, Monday, which means the next day. Nij Gijigat, which means the second day. Niswe Gijigat, which means the third day. Nilan Gijigat, the 4th day. Nanan Gijigat, the 5th day. Remember, these ones are numerical form. So just counting in the order of. All right, our next one. Remember on Friday, we're going to talk about Gagido. Gagido. She or he speaks. And we kind of talked a little bit about just throwing these words out there when we do speak, to speak with that kindness, that Zhao Zhigewin, kindness. Then also Gakwa Tzendowin. Has been 5 minutes, so if you would like to turn off your cameras, you're more than welcome to. You can keep them on if you don't mind. But just letting you know that 5 minutes has passed. So when you're talking with honesty, that Gakwa Tzendowin, honesty. And I also wanted to add in there Bape Adilin, humor. When we speak, we should have laughter and humor along with us too. Things don't always have to be so serious and all the time. And shorten that word to just bape. It means to laugh. It means laughter. So bape is laugh and laughter. Bape adwin means humor, and there's always good humor within our stories at times. Kakoitowazin with the honesty and also jajgewin, kindness. So come Friday, we'll talk more about Gagido. He or she speaks. What does that mean to you? All right. And then our three words, keywords that we're learning about, that we're talking about, that we've been going over for the month of January, just that Debajamolin, to tell a story. And also Atazotkan, a sacred story. And then Debajamo, to tell a story. Debajamo, to tell a story. All right, I'm going to go back to I'm going to stop share. That. All right, so I am going to read you a story today. It comes from, actually comes from the Miss Shoma's book. If you guys want to either do a reaction, so if you go down here and you see my cursor, right here there's a little reaction. If you want to give me a thumbs up if you ever heard or read the Miss Shoma's book, that'd be awesome. If it's new to you, you can do a laughing emoji. And then for me, if I read it and heard about it before, so I would have a little thumbs up come right up on my screen. So if you guys want to go ahead and do that, if you take your cursor, go to the reaction part, and you can either let me know Mr. I has heard about this, if you have heard of it, or if it's new to you, and you can use the laughing emoji right there, then it's new to you, and I would kind of know. So you don't have to have your cameras on right now, but if you could please go to the reaction button and give me a reaction if you've heard of the Miss Shoma's book or if it's new to you. And I'll kind of show you. This is the Miss Shoma's book. And it was written by the late Eddie Benton Benet. And when we talk about someone who has passed on, we put "ba" in front of them to let them know that they have walked on. But today I wanted to get into the story about Wenabuju and his Nokomis. We're going to learn about how he came to find his Nokomis. So, all right, I am also going to just have my screen blank, just so as I'm reading it, I don't have to keep looking up and down at the camera in the story that I'm reading. So, Wenabuju and his grandmother. So, as Wenabuju, when he came to Earth, he had that task to name everything of all of creation. And there's so many things that he named, but he didn't understand. He didn't quite realize. And he had so many questions for Gije Manadu. And we talked about one of his first companions yesterday being that Asema, that tobacco plant, that one connection he has with that creator and all living things to either offer something or to speak to them with that, offering that prayer. And Gije Manadu answered these questions, but he answered it in the form of saying, if you go across a vast lake lives your Nokomis. She is not from this world you have walked. She has the wisdom of the spirit. Go to her lodge, for it is the elder who can carry the knowledge of all these things that you want to know. So Wenabuju began searching for his Nokomis, and he came to a vast body of water. Try as he might, he could not figure out how to get across that far shore. He tried walking in every direction around that lake. He tried to walk Gwadenam, that northern direction, straight across, but soon he was treading water. And and he couldn't go Jawanong. He couldn't go south because he'd be walking away from the lake. So then he went Wabanong. He went eastward, and he just could not find the end of the lake. And then Gabinong, westward, he just still could not find the ending of that lake to get to the other side. Okay. So as he was going in all the directions, he just could not walk around, and it just seemed to be no ending to it. So finally, he just finally sat down, and then he was looking at the Beneshis, and he saw they began to swoop around his head, flying across as they sang. And they said, Wenabuju, it's easy, it's easy. And Wenabuju looked at his arms and he shook his head. He's like, it's not easy for me. I cannot fly like a Beneshi. I cannot fly. And then soon the Gigun came, and the Gigun said, but it's easy. You can just swim. Just like me. And Wenabuju looked at his legs, and he said, but I don't have fins like a fish. I don't have gills to breathe underwater. I can't go that vast, that long. So he tried though. He tried to swim across. He even tried to run in the air and jump across and fly, but no matter what he did, he could not make it. So Wenabuju asked the fish, please swim across to the water and see if my Nokomis is there. Please tell me if she's there. If she's not there, I know I can carry on. Gege Manadu said that she lives across this vast body of water, but is this the water? So the Gigun did that. So he waited, and for days he waited. And as long as Wenabuju, he kept waiting and waiting. And finally he thought, oh, I'll just give up. But those Gigun, those fish came back, and he said, your grandmother, your Nokomis, she does live there, and she's waiting for you to come. So now at this point, Wenabuju was getting excited. He's like, I'm going to meet my Nokomis. She's there. But he's all like, how do I get across this Nibi? How do I get across this water? So he began to think. And as he began to think, ideas came to him, and he could float across on a log. And he looked about and he saw beavers working on a dam. And he noticed that he cut the trees with their sharp teeth. So Wenabuju found him a good rock, and he chipped away at the sharp edges, and he began to really work away at that bark. And the bark that he just chose to use was Wikube, which was a basswood tree. And basswood tree is a great wood to use to float, to make rope out of, to make many things out of. And then he noticed he could cut down things with the log and stuff. So Wenabuju dragged that log to the shore of that great water, and he shoved and he jumped on top of it. But it was too hard to balance on that log, and he kept rolling and rolling and rolling because there was no bottom to it and there was no top to it. So he just rolled in the water, and he thought, back to the shore then I go, because I'm not getting across. So he thought about how could he make it float better. And then he remembered about his time walking the earth and naming everything. And he remembered when he came across Gitchimung, which was a whale, and remembered how that whale looked, as big as it was, that it could just glide and swim through the ocean. And he thought about the bottom of that whale. So what he did with that basswood is he kind of curved it, and he made it the shape of the bottom of a whale, it was said. And then with that, he began to try that again. And as he was able to do that, Wenabuju said, I can float now. But at the same time, he soon realized that all he could do was just stay there. He could just stay and not move anywhere. And he didn't understand. And then he thought about the way a fish moved, the way a duck moved, the way all water animals moved. And he thought about how a fish would use its fin, how the duck would use its feet, and even a beaver would use its tail. And he thought about that. And he's like, I need to make something to paddle like all these like water creatures do. And then so that's how the oar came to be. It was said to have that long swooping paddle part of just being able to keep control of that boat. And going forth with that. And then finally he realized that it wasn't just about, now I can move across. He had to steer. He had to learn how to steer himself in the water. So that even took some more time. So then Wenabuju went back to shore again. And he thought, okay, now I need my strength. I have a boat, and then it's the shape so where I can go and float across the water, but it's no longer spinning around and around. I can actually maneuver about because now I have a paddle as well. So once Manabuju figured everything out, and he thought about all the water life and about how they moved and stuff with his oar, he went back on his journey, and he was ready to head off towards the water. So once he was able to do that, Wanabuju took off upon that water, and pretty soon he was getting. He realized though that he didn't pack anything for supplies. He didn't pack anything for his journey again, so he went back to the shoreland. And before that he could travel, he had to realize that he had to pack for his journey that he was going to be going on. So after he packed for his journey, he set it out again. So soon, once he got enough rest and stuff, he decided, okay, this is my, whatever attempt, and I'm going to try to make it across this need be. So when Mbuju was back at shore and he was resting and thought about all the mistakes that he made, but this time he felt strong enough to set out on his journey to go see his Nokomis. But this time, though, he thought about what could I do since I had all these failed attempts? And he thought about his asema, and he thought about how he used that, and he offered that asema to Gije Manadu when he prayed. He thought about how he used his asema he would use that if he needed to go hunting or harvesting anything, he offered that to that spirit of that he was taking from. And so he decided that he would take his asema and he would offer it to Nibi. He would offer it to the water. And this time, instead of saying he was taking anything from the water, he asked for a safe and successful journey. He asked that as he crosses this great spirit of body of water that is the lake, to give him that good journey, and to watch out. And he honored all those spirits that dwelled within that lake. So finally, after learning throughout his mistakes, he began his journey. Before this time he had his supplies with him, and now it was time that he started his journey. And he throughout this time though, he decided instead of taking it during the day, it was at nighttime now, and he really had to navigate, how am I going to find my Nokomis? So during the day, he would use the sun, talking about it going from east to west. But at night, he would, when the moon was out, he would kind of go off that, and he'd also go off the northern star as he traveled by starlight. He knew that there were certain things in the sky that would mark his way. So when Wanabuju learned about all this and stuff, then he could finally find his way to his grandmother. So for days he paddled out to his on that lake, hoping to come across his Nokomis. And then finally, off in the distance, when he came to the shore, he found his Nokomis in front of her lodge waiting for him. She welcomed him and she fed him even more. And then he rested for a while. And when Abuju looked at her and he said, "How did you know that I was coming?" And then she reminded him, "Gije Manatu told you that I wasn't of this world, that I am a spirit being. I already knew that you were on your journey, but that you had to learn how to get to me, how to find me." So when Abuju began to notice everything she did to provide for herself, she was, even though she was a spirit, she was in human form and she was so old, she still took care of herself. She was able to hunt and gather and keep herself warm and everything. He was just so amazed on how skilled his Nokomis was. But he soon realized too that it was also part of his responsibility, since he was there and he was younger and he was more able, that he should be the one taking care of her. And I can keep going on with this story because we have about 6 more minutes. So he wanted to make life a little bit easier for his Nokomis while he was there. He went to go see his Nokomis for a certain reason because he had so many questions about Shikagami about everything he's seen, and Gege Manaju didn't give him all of those teachings, but he said, go to your Nokomis, ask her questions. And so he knew what the time with him being there, that with him being there, he couldn't just take from his grandmother. That was when you would want to receive something, you had to give something. So with that, he wanted to be helpful to his grandmother and give him his strength and his time to help take care of her as she was giving him knowledge of everything that he had questions for. All right, I'm going to stop that story right there. I'm going to turn my camera back on. We do have 5 minutes left of class. So just like the beginning of class, with that participation, if you want to turn your cameras back on just for those 5 minutes, just so I know you're there. And that counts as you participating, because I'm not going to be doing any popcorn calling today and just calling randomly. So you guys can start turning them on right now. So that was Winabuju getting to his grandmother, his Nokomis. He didn't really get to sit down and ask her any questions. However, he thought about things to make to travel across to the Great Water. But one thing that stuck out to me in that story is that Asema, that he realized that it was something that even water, as it's just an element, it's liquid, it's there, we still honor that spirit of that water, even when we cross it and we ask for that good journey. And I know for myself, for when I travel, that's something I do. Whenever I travel across any lakes or rivers or anything like that, I pray to that water. Sometimes I'll stop at the shoreline and I'll take a drive throughout my journey, and I'll drive down to that area and then I'll offer my seva. But if I can't and I'm like not in a hurry, but if I just don't have time to stop, as I'm driving across it on a bridge, I'll sing my water song and I'll offer my water from my left hand throughout the window as I'm driving across. And even when I go on different journeys and stuff like that, I always pray for a good journey and to arrive there and also to arrive back home. And that's just something that I've always done and that my family has done, and even my relatives and even my friends. That's just something that we've always done with our Asema and stuff like that for traveling. And that's something that we took away from that story of Winabuju finding his Nokomis. All right, so we do have 3 minutes left of class. Does anyone have any questions? And this was the first story that you guys got to hear about how a jiaman was made. And a jiaman is just another word for a canoe. So I thought that was kind of neat too, that it was always said that Winabuju made the first canoe and he constructed it kind of like the stomach of like a fish, you know, how round so it would float in the water, but also thinking of the paddle of the water creatures, of how they swam across and stuff. But, all right, 2 minutes left. Any questions out there? All right, well, I will end it 2 minutes early and I'll pass it over to Mr. I know those 2 minutes will be part of your 5-minute break, most likely, unless he has any other he wanted to add in.
Nope, make much for the story.
You're welcome.